Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, that challenge that honestly keeps countless business leaders up at night. How do you get consistent, predictable growth year after year? Not just, hoping for the best. It really is that sort of holy grail when you're scaling up. So our mission today, we're going to unpack a system, one that makes a pretty bold claim. Delivering like 20 to 30% annual growth consistently. And it does this by changing how the whole organization thinks about sales. We're diving deep into a new book. It's called Outgrow, How to Expand Market Share and Outsell Your Competition. The author is Goldfayn, and it's actually due out April 8th, 2025. And the promise here isn't just growth. It's about actively outgrowing your competitors. Measurably. Repeatably.
Yeah, and what makes this one really stand out, I think, is where it comes from. This isn't just, another sales theory book someone cooked up. Outgrow is built on what Goldfayn calls tens of millions of logged sales behaviors. And that's from over 400 client companies.
Wow, okay. Tens of millions.
Exactly. So this is real data, empirical stuff from lots of different businesses, different industries, showing what actually works. It's essentially a data-driven blueprint. And the aim is to shift companies away from just sort of transactional selling to genuinely helping customers. And the idea is that significant revenue follows that shift. That fundamental change, backed by all that data, it's pretty compelling.
Okay, well, let's unpack this then. You said Outgrow is a culture-based, data-driven framework, embedding proactive sales behaviors across the whole organization. What does that actually look like on the ground? Because for a lot of people, sales feels very individual, almost like an art form, right? Not something you can just systematize across every department. So where does it start?
That's a great question, and it really gets right to the heart of Goldfayn's whole argument. See, the core idea is that growth shouldn't be random. It shouldn't be left to chance, or, like you said, just the sales department.
Right.
Outgrow gives you a systematic playbook. It's culture-driven, designed for predictable, sustainable, organic growth, and it's really aimed at the leadership level. Owners, executives, managers, giving them detailed, practical steps on how to build this outgrow culture through the entire company. The ambition here is for growth to stop being this quarterly sprint, this big push.
Yeah, the frantic push.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead become more like a permanent operating system.
Yeah.
Just this fundamental pulse beating through every department, an ingrained habit,
Sure.
Not some temporary project. It's about building the actual machinery for growth rather than just hoping for individual heroics from the sales team.
That makes a lot of sense because, so many places operate reactively. I know Goldfayn talks about salespeople just constantly fighting fires or just waiting for inbound leads. Can you elaborate on that reactive mindset? Why is it such a common problem for businesses trying to scale up?
Oh, absolutely. That reactive problem, it's everywhere. It's endemic. Many sales teams, and honestly, whole organizations, they're just set up to respond. They wait for the phone to ring, they wait for an email, a lead from a trade show. They're basically playing defense, not offense. And it's not always about lack of effort. Often it's just a lack of a clear, proactive strategy. All that time spent fighting fires, dealing with customer complaints, sorting logistics, troubleshooting existing orders. It just eats up any chance for proactive outreach.
Right. There's no time left.
Exactly. And if all you ever do is wait for inbound leads, well, then you're completely at the mercy of the market, external forces, which makes that consistent, predictable growth almost impossible. You're just not in control of your own destiny.
Yeah, besides just being reactive, Goldfayn points to another big blind spot, doesn't he? This lack of visibility and accountability. It's one thing to want your team to be proactive, but if you can't measure it, how do you manage it?
Exactly. And this brings up a really critical point about leadership. Goldfayn sees that many organizations, they just don't have structured scorecarding. They don't have consistent tracking forms or solid analytics.
So what does that mean day to day?
Well, in practice, it means leaders don't actually know the precise behaviors that predict revenue growth. They might see the final sales numbers at the end of the quarter, sure. But they don't know which specific actions led to those numbers.
Or why they missed a target.
Or why they missed. Exactly. Think about it like, I don't know, a sports team. You know the final score, but you have no clue if the players practiced their free throws or if they passed the ball well or if they even showed up for training every day. Without that detailed visibility into the inputs, those specific proactive behaviors, you can't coach effectively, you can't replicate success, and you can't really hold anyone accountable for the activities that actually drive growth. You're basically flying blind.
Okay, so if those are the problems, being stuck reacting all the time, and not having the visibility to know what really works. What are the actual solutions Outgrow offers? The book talks about logging and tracking specific revenue-generating behaviors, things like proactive calls, getting referrals, sharing successes. But what does that really mean for daily operations? How does it work on the ground beyond just, tracking stuff?
Right. This is where it gets practical. Goldfayn's system isn't just about pointing out problems. It gives you a concrete, actionable roadmap to fix them. So first, yes, it starts with defining and logging those specific revenue-generating behaviors. And these aren't just random tasks. They're the actions that Goldfayn's huge data set shows are scientifically proven to directly lead to revenue.
Okay, like what specific?
So things like making proactive calls to your existing customers. But not just to sell something, it's about sharing successes or suggesting new ways they could benefit from what you offer. It's about asking for referrals consistently, making it part of the standard process, and actively sharing customer success stories internally and externally to build excitement and spark new opportunities. But the metrics from logging those behaviors, they aren't just numbers buried in a spreadsheet somewhere. They get fed into customized dashboards. Think of it like a personalized control panel for every sales rep, every team, every leader. These dashboards visually track things like daily proactive calls, conversion rates on referrals, the impact of sharing specific success stories. This real-time visibility lets you make immediate adjustments, celebrate the wins, and forecast much more accurately than traditional methods. You move from guesswork to actual data-driven prediction. And beyond just the dashboards, Outgrow introduces this idea of a repeatable cadence.
A cadence, like a rhythm.
Exactly. It's the rhythm of growth built into the daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly routines. So daily, it might be specific targets for those proactive calls, maybe followed by quick team huddles to check progress, share quick wins or roadblocks. Weekly, maybe there's dedicated time for strategic planning. Using action planning templates Goldfayn provides to map out specific proactive steps for key accounts.
Okay, structured planning time?
Yeah. Then monthly, you have structured review meetings. Leaders look at trends, spot areas needing improvement, maybe refine call scripts or communication strategies based on what's actually working. And quarterly, that's for the bigger picture. Broader strategic reviews, setting new targets, reinforcing the cultural shift. But what's really fascinating here, I think, beyond just the tools and the cadence, is the focus on mindset. Outgrow introduces this acronym, C.O.P.E.
C.O.P.E.
Confidence, optimism, positivity, and enthusiasm. And look, this isn't just some fluffy feel-good mantra. It's about systematically building that collective mindset. It could involve those daily huddles focusing on celebrating wins, proactively solving problems, reframing challenges as opportunities. It's designed to kind of inoculate the team against the usual sales slumps and build this deep belief in the power of their own proactive efforts. And then there's this one specific, really clever tactic he mentions, the "did you know" upsell question.
Did you know? How does that work?
So imagine you've just helped a customer with, say, problem X. Instead of just ending the call there, you might simply ask, hey, did you know that we also offer Y? It could actually help you streamline your Z process even more. It's non-aggressive. It's service-oriented. It's a way to open new doors by showing you genuinely understand their broader needs.
Right, turning a transaction into more of a consultation.
Precisely. It unlocks that hidden revenue potential within your existing customer base simply by shifting from pushy selling to genuinely helping them find more value.
That all sounds incredibly practical, really thorough. Which I think has to be one of the big strengths here. It's not just theory, is it? The book's highly actionable nature seems key, giving people concrete tools, scripts, real-world case studies from, what was it, over 400 clients?
Yep, over 400.
That makes actually doing it sound much more straightforward, almost like a plug-and-play system.
It is definitely designed to be highly implementable. And the credibility of Outgrow, it really comes back to that strong data foundation. We're talking tens of millions of tracked behaviors, millions of data points. That provides the statistical backing for that claim of 15-30% year-over-year growth.
That's not just an opinion.
No, it's not just someone's opinion or a single lucky anecdote. It's patterns identified across this massive data set of real sales interactions. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the book's heavy focus on leadership engagement, on cultural transformation, that's what ensures the growth can actually be sustained. It goes beyond just individual efforts. It becomes embedded in the company's DNA. It's about creating a culture where growth isn't optional. It's a predictable, measurable result driven by these consistent, proactive behaviors. It shifts the burden, from individual wits trying to figure it all out to a systematic organizational commitment.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because, look, no system is perfect, right? We always want to look at the whole picture. So when we talk about something potentially as impactful as Outgrow, are there any potential limitations, things listeners should consider if they're thinking about adopting this? What are the nuances, maybe, that someone implementing this needs to be aware of?
That's a crucial question. It really speaks to the need for critical application, not just blind adoption. So while Outgrow is immensely powerful, its strong emphasis on quantitative metrics, well, it might underplay some qualitative factors.
Well, so.
Well, think about certain industries, maybe ones with really long, complex sales cycles, or where deep, nuanced relationship building is absolutely critical. In those cases, just logging behaviors might not capture the full story of what makes a deal happen.
Like a huge enterprise software deal or something.
Exactly. A multi-million-dollar deal like that involves intricate stakeholder management, building trust over months, maybe years, bespoke problem solving. That doesn't always fit neatly into a proactive call metric. So that's an important thing for you, the listener, to weigh against your specific business reality. Another point worth considering is potential selection bias.
Selection bias, meaning?
Meaning the case studies in the book are naturally going to be mainly from successful Outgrow clients, people who self-selected into the program and made it work. Now, that doesn't mean the system isn't effective, but it does mean the examples might show the ideal conditions, maybe not the full range of challenges someone might face trying to implement it.
Okay, so manage expectations.
Yeah. Understand that while the system can produce amazing results, success really hinges on committed execution. And that leads right into the final and maybe the most significant nuance. The framework may falter in organizations where leadership commitment or disciplined execution is lacking.
It's not magic.
Definitely not a magic bullet. It demands consistent buy-in right from the top.
Yeah.
Rigorous adherence to the new processes. A real willingness to coach people and hold teams accountable. If leaders treat it like just another flavor of the month initiative, or if the organization just doesn't embrace the discipline needed, then even the best system is going to struggle to take root and deliver those results. It really demands a true cultural shift, not just tweaking a few procedures. But overall, look, Outgrow offers a really compelling culture-centric playbook, especially for leaders who want to shift their companies from that reactive, unpredictable state to one of truly proactive, predictable growth. It's backed by solid data, and it gives you a suite of incredibly practical, actionable tools that can genuinely change how a business operates.
Yeah, it seems clear that while it's powerful, you, the user, you absolutely need to adapt that metrics-driven approach to your own specific context. It's a guide, right? Not a rigid instruction manual. And you'll need to be ready to layer in those crucial qualitative insights, the things that define your unique customer relationships, your specific industry dynamics. So it leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? If consistent, measurable growth really does come down to embedding specific proactive behaviors, what's one small specific behavior shift you could implement today? Within your team, or maybe even just in your own daily routine, something that can start that ripple effect, start building that growth engine, something to mull over as you think about how to, well, outgrow your own expectations.